Shout out to Cats Pod.
A great defensive play for Montana State.
Touchdown, Tommy Millard is electrifying.
Welcome to the Cats Pod. What's up, Podcats? Here we are after another amazing Bobcat football game. I would like to apologize for the fans right off the top for delaying this recording a little bit, but I have been marathon moving from Thursday until today. And there's still a little bit more work to be done, but I could find some time to get away from it. So thanks, everybody, for your patience, as Eric had to wait for me this time. So that works. That being said, Eric has a few words for everybody. Pay attention.
Oh, yeah.
Listen close.
Oh, yeah.
The classic Eric Lava rant's about to happen. Go for it.
Oh, yeah. It's not a rant. It's just a ton of praise. But when I went down to this game, yeah, it was a mad dash down, left Valier like 1 o'clock or something like that, race down there, get up to the box, and pulling into the stadium, it's pitch black. It didn't look real full out in those tailgating parking lots.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to say, man, that crowd showed out. It filled, every seat was taken. You could see a couple where, somebody just didn't quite fill them all. But that stadium was absolutely packed. And I'll tell you what, I've been to a lot of football games in Bobcat Stadium. I have never heard it that loud.
Mm-hmm.
That place was hopping, and the university put an incredible fireworks display. I'm sure everybody saw the video, the aerial footage that they took of those fireworks going off. I took my 4-year-old down, and he's not even that much into football. Oh, he was absolutely glued to it and absolutely loved it. That place was absolutely rocking. And they kept with it. When Idaho was keeping it close, the fans were right on top of them the whole time. And it played a factor. There was the false start there in the first quarter, and it's pretty impressive. I just got to shout out Bobcat Nation for absolutely showing out. It was pretty special, man. I'm not gonna lie. Even up in the box, you could hear everything outside. Second off, we talk a lot about how special Tommy Millard is.
Oh yeah.
But it's time to start talking about him on a national level with all of D1.
Mm-hmm.
The kid has elite awareness and speed that you don't find it very often.
Yep.
There was one play, they had him dead to rights in the backfield, and he just turned on the burners and got around the outside. It was 100% effort, and he absolutely smoked those dudes. It was only like an 8-yard gain or so, but the fact that he was able to outrun everybody in the backfield was, it's special. What we're witnessing is special.
Yeah.
And then his 63-yard run, not only did he make 3 guys miss right there just in front of the line, he juked another guy completely out of his cleats, and then did a little stutter step and made 2 guys trip over each other.
Gone.
It's like, it's nice. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it's finally nice to see Tommy get the national recognition, because this was aired on ESPN. I had even my Iowa buddies, they were all watching this game. It was the only thing to watch on Friday night. They're all watching it, and they actually got to see a little bit of what we already know. So Tommy is finally getting, I think he's finally getting the recognition that he actually deserves. Plus, he got featured on You Got Mossed.
Oh, yeah.
So kudos to Schlepp for making an absolute beauty of a play on a ball. But Tommy threw that perfect. It was pinpoint. I'm so stoked with things weren't going great at the beginning of the game, and Tommy said, all right, hold my beer and watch this. Watch what I can do, because he understands when to let other guys work, and he understands when he's got to take control of a game, which is what he did in the Idaho game. He took control of that game and put Idaho right in their place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so impressed with what Tommy Millott is doing right now.
Yeah.
He is the best player in FCS. And if he doesn't win the Walter Payton Award, it'll be the second biggest snub behind Adam Jones not getting the Jerry Rice.
Definitely.
Yeah. The last little thing is that the Bobcats beat Idaho so bad that Idaho's quarterback had 6 or 7 different little temper tantrums out there. Several times he just stood there with his hands on his hips until, I think a couple of them were on fourth down conversion, and he just stands out there with his hands on his hips. Nobody else on the field. Defense is lining up, or special teams is lining up, and he's still standing out there, pouting with his hands on his hips. I mean, the body language was atrocious. One time he was on the ground, and he just sat there shaking his head, just kind of having a pity party to himself. When you do that, the defense has to just feed off it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he is giving life to the defense that was already ready to rock and roll.
Oh, yeah.
And they just fed off of it.
Mm-hmm.
But bottom line, the narrative of this game was that Idaho was healthy. This was not the team that we saw the first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had Jack Lane back. Their players were healthy. They coming off a decent win.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be primo Idaho, in danger of knocking the Cats off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that isn't really what we saw. And the actual narrative should be the Cats are down 7 starters.
Yeah.
6, actually. 6 technical starters for this game.
Yep.
They are probably the most injured team in the FCS, yet they're playing like the number 1 team. I mean, what the coaching staff is doing right now is, it's beyond impressive. This win is beyond special. I'm talking, we lost Blake Schmidt and Caden Dowler before the Idaho game.
Mm-hmm. And
since the Idaho game, granted, Danny Yu was at, I think the third quarter, it was already out of hand at that point.
Yep.
But we lost Danny Yu, we lost Rohan, we lost Scott Trey, we lost Zach Black and Drew Polidor in that game.
Mm-hmm.
We had no Julius Davis. That list that I just gave you is an all-conference list.
Yep.
A legitimate all-conference list.
That's all conference guys, pretty much.
The fact that they're in this position and they're playing at this level despite losing what would be the best player on any other team, all of those guys, they just cracked down.
Yep.
They boat raced them at this. Let's be honest. It was close first quarter, and then it was 31-10.
All of a sudden, it happened quick too.
Yeah, it was something special to behold. It was so much fun being there, and just another shout out to Bobcat Nation for showing out and cheering these guys on, because that stadium was nuts. Rant over.
Okay, well, to piggyback off what you were saying, amen, amen, amen. Amen. Also, Tommy Millott is completely unflappable now.
Oh.
And he was always mentally tough. I'm not saying that he wasn't, but this version of Tommy that has came to fruition through all of his hard work and all of his X's and O's training and physical training and everything, he makes a mistake at the beginning of this game, and a lot of weaker quarterbacks would have let that be the story of the entire game. But Tommy comes back and he makes up for it, and he makes up for it 1,000-fold every single time now. We saw it at the beginning of the season in the New Mexico game. Makes a couple of mistakes. Completely makes up for it, leads game-winning drives, does stuff like that. In this game, could have been the same thing. Throws that early interception, completely unflappable. You are completely right. That pass at the beginning was a dot. Got to give some credit to Duct Tape Dynasty for first showing me this comparison. But on that run where Tommy completely juked the one guy and made the other two guys fall.
Yeah,
That's a Lamar Jackson type run.
it is.
Like, Tommy plays like a Lamar Jackson in college. You don't see highlights like that from any other quarterback in the country, where they have amazing dots for passes, and at the same time, he's completely breaking people's ankles.
Yeah. I mean, we are literally watching maybe I mean, at this, I know we did an all-time Bobcat draft, but I feel like for both of us, he is in the top 5 all-time at this point.
We didn't include
Regardless
current players in that either.
No, we didn't.
Yeah.
But I feel like he has to be included in the top for most number one influential players, or most talented players, and just genuine good person. I mean, he checks all 3 boxes, and he's playing at such a high level. I mean, it's just special. I mean, we're witnessing something special, and this game specifically showed that Tommy can just say, watch it, watch me do it. You know, we're injured, and he is willing to step up. And, you know, he did take a bit of a beating every once in a while.
Yeah.
And he pops back up immediately. And the number one thing, the difference between him and Jack Lane, is when Tommy Mellott throws an interception, he doesn't sit out on the field and pout about it. He forgets about it and moves on and plays well.
Yeah.
You know, he's not out there with his hands on his hips, head down, shaking his head, mad about it. He just says, oh, you know, that's me, that's on me, and he's back functioning even better than he was before the interception.
Yeah.
I mean, it's special. It's really special.
Yeah. Jack Lane had a very long day on that field. There was 6 tackles for loss in this game, 3 sacks, and that does not even begin to show you the amount of times that Jack Lane got hit. There was a lot of situations where even if he did get a pass off, the defense was right there on top of him. He was taking a beating in this game, and it is very tough to play against this Bobcat defense. And when you're a young quarterback like that, you're probably not going to be ready.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and like you just said, he was getting harassed. And this is maybe the spot where we give Coach Daly a little bit of love.
Oh, yeah.
Because it only took him 1 quarter to make the correct adjustments. Just just locked him down.
We don't make halftime adjustments. We make instant adjustments.
Yeah. Coach Daly, and you know, I could be wrong. Maybe somebody else saw it, but I'm assuming it was probably Coach Daly. And he figured out how to fix the first quarter. I mean, the first quarter was a 10-10 ball game. And at halftime, it was 31-10.
Yep.
And granted, Idaho did some goofy things, but that onside kick was strange. But, you know, people say, oh, it was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Well, I happen to remember a Super Bowl not too long ago where Sean Payton did the same thing.
And it's one of those situations where if that works, he's a genius.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work, so people call him the dumbest. It's something he had to try to beat this Bobcat team. You need to pick up possessions like that, or else you're not going to have any kind of chance. But that's the desperation that the Cats force people into.
Yeah. I mean, it's the Idaho came into this game saying, whatever it takes. We'll do whatever it takes to win this game. And they came out and they executed early.
Yep.
And that onside kick, had it worked, I mean, they did have the Cats fooled on it. I mean, the Cats were lined up to receive a regular kickoff.
Yep.
And, you know, that ball, I don't even know if it went 5 yards. But it's just, you know, kind of how the cookie crumbles. And Idaho I don't think they were quite able to get the steam back in after the Cats went down and scored on that one.
No.
Kind of tough.
Yeah. Those situations are very, very hard to recover from. And just all facets of this game, offensively, defensively, even special teams. Brendan Hall came out and pinned one. you know, deep inside
Money
the 5.
Miles.
You know, Money Miles was on it.
7 for 7 extra points and a 47-yard field goal.
Yep. Just step in there and crush it. And it was like a no-doubter 47-yard field goal.
I have to ask you, Ben, what is it like for you watching a football game, having complete confidence in your kicker?
It is so special, and it feels so good that when he goes out there, we're just like, Money Miles. It's in.
Yep.
It's already in. And he's such a young dude. That's what's even more impressive about this whole situation is the situation, the story behind it. And that's the same thing with Tommy. Tommy's impressive in his own with what he's doing this year. But the story behind Tommy, the way he came in as a freshman and the way he did that, it's a similar thing when it comes to Money Miles.
Yeah.
Thrown into a situation based on injuries. Has to come in there, has to step it up, you know. And he had like a little bit of an adjustment period right at the beginning of the season. There was a couple misses. But ever since that, he has been absolute money all day long.
Yeah. What we're witnessing from him is such a breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel bad for kickers because you're expected to hit every kick, and it is the end of the world when you miss one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the life of a kicker, unfortunately. And Miles Sandstead, kudos to you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Kudos to you.
Yeah. Great
But like
game.
you said, I mean, they executed in all facets of this game, all three phases.
Three phases killed it.
They did well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, offensively, Adam Jones had himself a day. Biggest snub in Jerry Rice history, as you said. Texted me mid-game.
Mm-hmm. He has a mixture of power and speed that you do not see out of redshirt freshmen.
Yeah.
You might have the power, you might have the speed, but he's got the power, the speed, the pass catching. It's unbelievable watching Adam Jones and the way he's played. Once again, thank you, Missoula.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Bobby.
Yep. Thank you, Bobby, for not
we love you
whatever
for that
you
one.
did in that situation. Because in this game, 95 rush yards, 66 receiving yards. That's a huge game for anyone.
How many? We want to tell the listeners how many touchdowns.
Oh, how many touchdowns was it altogether? It was 4 on the ground. Yeah,
it was better than a hat trick.
Just 4 on the ground, you know. Something simple like that. The only touchdown that wasn't by Tommy, basically. All the touchdowns were by him or Tommy.
So, just off, let's just take this one game for Adam Jones.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who did win the Jerry Rice has had like 120 yards total this postseason.
Yep.
It's not even close.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up the specifics on it right now.
It's kind of an embarrassment, and I understand it all comes from the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
But we knew what Adam Jones was going into this postseason, and Adam Jones is proving it to everybody why he deserved that award more than anyone else. And it kind of, I know these awards are regular season awards, but the special players show up in the postseason. We see it time and time again. If you're good, you continue being good into the postseason, and Adam Jones has continued being good into the postseason, and his contemporary has shrunk back into the shadows a bit.
Yep.
He's still part of a good team.
Shamar Brown has 3 games all season where he went over 100 yards of rushing.
Mm-hmm.
And the most receiving yards he's ever had in a game was 17. And when you look at yards per rush, I believe that Shamar Brown is at about 5.6, somewhere around there. Adam Jones is at 8.5 yards per rush right now.
Yeah.
And he is much more of a receiving threat than Shamar Brown. So I just think it's far and away, I believe that he deserves that award. We should make up an award for him. Send it in.
Yeah.
We'll make like a little trophy for Adam Jones and send it to him because he deserves it.
He does deserve it.
Yeah.
And hopefully he just knows that everybody else knows he got screwed, for lack of a better word.
Definitely did.
Other players on offensive line, beautiful job as usual. Lanyata Jr. Let's
He
go.
had himself quite a game.
Yeah, and he was fired up. I love to see it. He was stoked. He made some pretty crucial catches.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the way the ball spread around is, like, Lanyata had 2 receptions in this game, but those were very crucial receptions.
Yeah.
You know, in very tough spots. And you're not going to get a ton of targets on this team. Nobody is. So those couple of targets that you get, so important to scoop those things in, and Lanyata did that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, he performed really well today, or on Friday. Really happy for the whole offense. The defense was, I mean, John Johnson, let's go. Talk about a well-timed pick.
Oh, yeah.
Really happy for him getting that one. After that first quarter, they figured some things out. That speed package they're running on defense seems to be extremely effective.
Yep.
Brody Grebe runs like 20-some yards to get a solo tackle on a guy. I mean, these guys they're just playing at a different level right now. I mean, the defense as a whole is playing at a different level.
By far the most balanced team we've ever seen.
Yeah,
probably the most balanced team in all of Bobcat history.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know that I've ever seen a Bobcat defense quite like this one.
No.
And it's especially impressive considering all the injuries.
Yeah. And when you look at the stats, it's the same thing as when you look at our receivers. It is so balanced. Like, nobody's having a massive game, but everybody's getting a couple of tackles. Or they're making a big play here or there. But you cannot escape everyone on this Bobcat defense. It's just not possible.
No, it's not. And, I mean, this defense, they just continue to prove that you cannot run the ball on the Bobcat.
No. The D-line
they're gonna
just holds everybody to nothing.
Yeah, it's what the D-line is doing right now, the containment that they have, I mean, the pressure, they're not letting any runs get through. I mean, very seldom do you see anybody in the secondary having to come up and help out.
Yeah.
And it just affords them to, go a little heavier in the, pass defense.
Idaho ran for 143 yards in this game, passed for 264, held in check for the most part. They had a couple of big plays. They were always in the passing game. Eli Cummings had one impressive rush, but that was really about it. He didn't even get a lot of touches in this game. It was the Dushan Buchanan who got a majority of their rushing attempts. He had 10 attempts, ended up with 95 yards. He actually had a pretty good game for himself, but that was mainly led by a 45-yard rush that he had. So outside of that one big breakaway, and I believe that was late in the game.
Yeah. I couldn't even tell you exactly when that happened, but I know when the game was tight, in that second quarter, they shut their offense down. I mean, they absolutely shut their offense down up until, the fourth quarter when they scored that last touchdown.
It just, you cannot say enough, basically, about this team and the way that they have handled this. Every time you blinked, Adam Jones was in the end zone again.
Yeah.
And it happened so fast. I believe they scored 21 points in like the last 3 minutes of the half.
Yeah. And, along the lines of the rushing game, Colson Kuhn is the real deal. He is a talented son of a gun.
Yeah, tough dude.
Yeah, I mean, he had they were putting him in, expecting him to run into contact, and he brought that contact on and just kind of ran through it quite a bit. And he was able to, kind of churn those tough yards that we really, really needed. The third and shorts, second and shorts, those kind of things. He was able to get those first downs. And, especially in a game where we were pretty darn depleted at running back. I mean, no Julius, no Scott Ray.
Mm-hmm.
We had Adam Jones and Colson Kuhn really, really stepped up this game. And, of course, Tommy.
The fact that the Cats can win a quarterfinal game like that when you're just playing your young guys, basically,
Yeah.
that shows how deep it is and how talented it is. And you said it, there's injuries all over the place. There's depth at every single position on this team to where it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like I said earlier, it's just special what they're able to accomplish. I mean, on offense, they were without Julius Davis, who is insanely special.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Ray Humphrey, who is, basically a Fonse reincarnate.
Yep.
And Rohan Jones, who's our Swiss Army knife. I mean, what those three guys bring to the table, and we didn't have them at all.
Yep.
And they were still able to just walk Idaho around the field.
Before this game, I think I said that Jack Lane was worth 14 points to this team. It turned out he was worth less than 14 points. I was giving him way too much credit before this game.
Yeah, before the game, I was really confident in the spread. Mm-hmm. I thought that was, a pretty darn good bet. 16.5 points. I felt like that was, pretty darn reasonable and easy to hit.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I've never been so happy to be wrong because that spread was trash.
Yeah, that spread was destroyed. The only thing that was beaten worse than Idaho was the spread.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Being there and watching it in person was pretty darn impressive. I mean, this team is a legit wagon.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take a special effort to keep games close.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, we've seen it every week. They just have so many different ways to score.
Mm-hmm.
They can turn to Tommy's arm. They can keep it on the ground. They have 3 legit running backs that can do serious damage. They have a plethora of pass catchers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the tight ends have really stepped up in Rohan's absence.
Yep.
And then you have to worry about Ty McCullough, Taco Dowler, and Lanyata Alexander.
There's just many. Like you could keep naming them too. Like that's not even everyone that you have to worry about on this team offensively. There's just so many dudes. We have so many tight ends that can make catches and make great plays, and that's just one position.
We've seen different tight ends go off in back-to-back weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Lonergan and Province really went off last week, and this week Schlepp gets featured on You Got Moss.
Yep.
I mean, what more can you ask for from an offense? And kudos to Tyler Walker for orchestrating what I consider to be a masterclass in offense.
Yeah. The play calling is always on point. Able to take special players and utilize all of them is so impressive.
Yeah, it's a really good time to be a Bobcat fan. I can tell you that much.
I can't think of any time that was better to be a Bobcat fan than right now.
No, I can't either. I mean, all I know is that I have a stupid amount of confidence in these guys.
Yeah. After this game, the level of confidence probably could not get any higher. It's an all-time team, not just an all-time team for the Cats. It's an all-time team for the FCS.
Yeah.
I would put it up against a lot of those past teams.
I feel like everybody was confident that Montana State was going to beat Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really just... It really seemed like everyone thought this game would be close.
Yeah. Even Jason Eck was confident that the Cats were going to win this game.
Yeah. It was kind of weird. I heard about the New Mexico deal before the kickoff even happened.
Mm-hmm.
The rumors were flying around the box that he was going to take the New Mexico, or he got offered the New Mexico job.
Yeah.
And was probably going to take it. And I just, I kind of figured we might see a little more from Idaho. I mean, but once again, it comes down to this defense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've talked about it before. The Cats, they can be in a close game first quarter, but that defense is so smothering, it just wears on you.
Yeah.
And our offense is on the field for so much time. I mean, the time of possession in this game, basically at the end of the third quarter, was so insanely lopsided. I don't know what it ended up at, but at one point it was like 30 minutes to 11 minutes.
Yep.
I mean, it was such a skewed difference. And when your defense is on the field that much, like Idaho's was, it's not too much of a surprise that the offense can kind of, function however they want to, despite your good efforts.
Yeah. I'm trying to look up that time of possession, but it was not on the NCAA's website. So, shout out to the NCAA.
Yeah.
Time of possession ended up at 38 minutes 51 seconds for the Cats, 21 minutes 9 seconds for Idaho. That is quite a significant gap.
It is. I mean, and that's you can't. Your defense you're going to get tired. If you're on the field that much, you are going to get tired. The runs are going to start getting past you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how it is. I mean, everybody gets tired eventually.
We had a situation where in a playoff game, we had Idaho playing their backups. I don't know how often that ever happens. Usually in a playoff game, it seems like you keep your starters out there for the entire game, no matter what. In this situation, Idaho sat dudes, which is very surprising.
Yeah.
And Jordan Dwyer has already hit the transfer portal.
Yeah. I mean, he hit it the next morning.
Yeah.
So did Jack Lane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Which I don't know if I agree with those decisions. Like, obviously they get to make their own decision, and I'm not saying that they're completely wrong, but I like Jason Eck as a coach. I think he's a smart dude. He's got a good personality and everything, and I feel like he's very supportive of his players and really focused on their development. So I can't think of many better situations for a young quarterback to develop in than being with this Idaho squad. It seems like they do a very good job. So that just surprises me,
And Eck, he's going to a New Mexico squad that has a very good quarterback, very talented quarterback, and it's kind of hard to believe that, Lane is going to follow him down there. I mean, I assume Jordan Dwyer's going with him to New Mexico.
Yeah, that's probably the situation.
That. But, yeah, I mean, they hit the portal so fast, and that's, credit to the Cats. I mean, they beat the players off that team.
Mm-hmm.
They literally beat them so bad they didn't want to play for Idaho anymore.
Yeah. That is the situation. It is a big loss for Idaho, which sucks, having them.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how fast they're going to recover. Hopefully they get somebody in there quick, but it is very hard to replace a guy like that.
It is. Eck he's a really good coach.
Mm-hmm. He's
kind of brought Idaho back from the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't very good, and he brought them back. He got wins, some pretty darn good wins, made the playoffs 3 straight years. I mean, he is a good coach. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
He's not quite like Vegan.
Yeah,
but
Vegan number one for sure. But it is a very good argument you can make between Plow and Eck for which one is the second best coach in the Big Sky right now.
Yeah. That's a tough one to pick, really. I don't know. I don't know which way I'd go with that one.
Yeah.
They've both done really good jobs
in
their respective schools.
Yeah.
Got anything else on this game?
No, not really. I feel like it's kind of boring to keep going over and over it again, but it's just every single week we're just glazing the Bobcats because that is exactly what they deserve, and there's nothing for us to point out on the other side. I feel like last season, if anybody listened to this podcast, you would know that we were honest about the team. We're very biased, But if we saw flaws in the team or we saw things that we would like to change a little bit, we would bring it up. And with this year's team, all we can do is say that you are the greatest, and we're going to keep saying it until we can't say it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they've done nothing. This team has done nothing. Coaching staff, players, haven't seen anything to sit back and say, oh, well, I think this could use some tweaks. Because I haven't seen anything worth bringing up. And
we still have zero off the field things to talk about either.
Yeah.
Like, we could talk about everything on the field, but we had situations last year and years prior where we had coaches that were having some off the field issues.
Yeah.
Or players that were having off the field issues. And this team, it just seems genuinely, everybody that we've ever talked to that is on this team, parents of players on this team, everyone is they're just great people. I haven't ran into anyone that I have had a single bad interaction with when it comes to this team.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I mean, it's nice that everything is so stress-free. Really. I mean, that's the number one thing is it's very stress-free right now.
Yeah.
The only thing, shout out Zach Black. Hope you're doing okay. He had to get some help off the field, so really hope he's all right. Yeah. And same with Drew Polidor. That would be that would be bad if he isn't able to suit up.
Drew's one of those dudes that is very just fun to watch. He seems like a really fun dude. Seems like he's got a cool personality and everything. Him going down is very similar to the feelings I have when Danny Yu went down.
Yeah.
Because I just love watching them play football. I love the way they go about it. It's so tough to see anybody get injured, but guys like that, it makes it even tougher. And Zach Black as well when he gets in that game, and then he needs some help off the field. I feel for that dude,
Yeah. Yeah. Really hope that both those guys are okay because we don't need any more injuries. So it really sucks to see those happen, especially to two total studs.
The last thing I really want to bring up, and this can kind of get talked about further on Wednesday's episode, I just want everybody, if there's any Missouri Valley fans listening to this podcast and you're the type of people that are posting online, I'm keeping those receipts, okay? I'm taking note of every single person that is projecting the downfall of the Cats way before anybody should be, Yep. I'm keeping track of that, just so you know, and be ready for it as this season goes on. 1-0. I'm still focused on just this semifinal game, but I'm paying attention. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what the Cats do. They just get hated on.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Somebody is always out to get them. I will never understand this because now that it's still kind of Grizzly fans praying for the downfall, but now the Missouri Valley fans in general think that they need to pipe in and say, oh, this is, this, that, whatever, the Cats never played anybody. They definitely never played any Missouri Valley teams. And it's like, well, we boat raced two playoff teams in a row.
Yep.
And, the big argument is this attendance thing. The Cats get 18,200 people to their game, and South Dakota got 6,200 to theirs.
Yeah.
Now, I get that their building isn't very big and that it can get loud in there even with 6,200 people, but I guarantee you that when you triple that number in Bobcat Stadium, they ain't going to know what hit them. I really hope we fill it next week. Because this is like the perfect segue to go into, the UC Davis South Dakota game. Because South Dakota gets a win, but I don't know what you thought, but in my own personal opinion, it wasn't an impressive win.
No, not entirely impressive. They did beat a very good UC Davis squad, but it's also very important to mention who was not on the field for the majority of this game for UC Davis.
Yeah, UC Davis didn't have the best player in FCS not named Tommy Milan.
Mm-hmm.
Lan Larison is a special type of player,
Yep.
and he wasn't on the field from the second quarter. I mean, he was there at the end as like a decoy kind of,
Mm-hmm.
but he was hurt.
Yeah.
And he was essentially a non-factor. And when you take that caliber of player out, the impact is felt across the entire game. I mean, it took the steam out of their sails. Miles Hastings became somewhat careless with the football.
Mm-hmm.
But the moral of the story is that South Dakota let UC Davis score 21 points against them. And UC Davis turned the ball over 5 times.
I believe it was 6 times altogether, 5
6
picks
times?
and 1 fumble. And if you turn the ball over 6 times and you only lose by 14 points, that's not going to impress me at all. You know.
So South Dakota made their fair share of mistakes too.
Yes, this was a sloppy game by both teams.
It was. I don't believe that Aiden Bauman is a talented quarterback for South Dakota, but he isn't on the level of the Tommy Millott, the Cam Miller, and the Mark Gronkowski.
No,
it's not the same.
Not at all.
South Dakota's defense, I mean, they did enough to get a 14-point win, which is, in the playoffs, that's impressive against, a frisky UC Davis team, a super frisky UC Davis team.
Oh, yeah.
But UC Davis scored 21 points and turned the ball over 6 times. I mean, how can we – I mean, yeah, you got 6 turnovers, but some of them were so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that pitch, that fumble pitch thing they did,
terrible.
That was a terrible, terrible play. And the Bobcats would never do something like that.
Mm-hmm. And I believe 2 of the picks were just terrible picks. Just there was no receiver even generally in the area where that ball went. And then also the tip ball for a pick. Tough to fully blame that on the quarterback, but still just plays that did not look good at all. South Dakota turns the ball over 3 times to this UC Davis defense that we do have respect for, but we know that they are not on the same level as the Bobcat defense.
No, they are not.
UC Davis gets these guys to turn over the ball 3 times. How many times are the Cats going to do it? And how well is the Cat offense going to capitalize on that?
Yeah, I mean, all credit to UC Davis. I mean, they've had a fantastic season. They have a lot of good players.
Mm-hmm.
But without without Lan Larison on the field, they're a shell of what they are. I mean, Lan Larison will always get his. I mean, we've seen it every single week.
Mm-hmm.
And without him on the field, they kind of shrunk.
And they shrunk, but also at the same time, UC Davis was in this game almost the entire time.
Yeah.
It's not
they were never totally out of it.
If somebody turns the ball over 6 times, you should be running up the score on them. But that was not the situation for the South Dakota team. And they have some talented members of their secondary, obviously, when they get the other quarterback to turn the ball over 5 times. But Tommy's not that dude. You do not get those opportunities against Tommy.
No. And, I mean, that weird little pitch fumble thing that happened, that was Lan Larison's backup that did that.
Yep.
I mean, that's a inexperience, trying to do too much kind of thing, and Lan Larison never would have done that.
No, not at all. He would have found a way to score a touchdown there.
Yeah. I don't know, man. South Dakota is a good team in their own right.
Oh, yeah.
I just have a really hard time believing they're a great team.
Yeah. Shout out to whoever does recruiting for South Dakota because they have people from all across the country on this team. And they have a lot of very talented players from all across the country on this team. I don't think that as a team they are even anywhere near as complete as the Bobcats are. And also, I don't think anybody else is really making that argument. I don't think they're trying to say that they are. I think it's been pretty obvious that South Dakota State, North Dakota State, and Montana State are on a tier by themselves. And South Dakota is that one team that's trying to claw their way into that tier.
Yeah. I mean, that running back for South Dakota, that Travis Tice, number 5, they left him completely wide open on a wheel route for kind of a back-breaking. It was a long one, probably 30-some yards. They left him completely. He was uncovered. You think Bobby Daly's going to let that happen? No.
It doesn't happen.
No. I mean, we're talking about UC Davis that has a couple studs on that defense.
Yep.
To a Bobcat defense that has all studs on their defense.
Yep.
I mean, I just have a hard time. Montana State's not going to gift you yards like that.
No.
They're not going to leave a running back uncovered on a simple wheel route.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to go with him. And, yeah, you might get a couple, but it isn't going to be 39. There's no way.
If you look at the offensive numbers for South Dakota in this game, they are also not incredible. Their rushing game, they rush for 125 yards. Okay? If UC Davis is holding you to 125 yards, you're going to have a long day when it comes to going up against the Cat defensive line. Passing-wise, 14 for 21, 253 yards. That is a very solid passing game, you know? But also, you're not facing the kind of pressure that we have seen in these situations.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing to say about the passing game for South Dakota is that you take out that Gash one. Guy had 70-some yard reception. You take that out, and it's not that good of a game.
Yeah. It's very, very much more pedestrian numbers. And 253 doesn't blow your hair back, you know? You don't look at that and go, oh, that was an amazing game for them. He wasn't in the 300s, wasn't in the 400s like Miles Hastings was last week. It's not super impressive either way. It's a very solid South Dakota team, but it is not an overly impressive South Dakota team.
Well, they had 381 total yards of offense, it looks like. And they had 6 extra possessions to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, you would kind of expect numbers to be around. I mean, if you have 6 takeaways, your offensive numbers better be off the board. 6 extra possessions on top of everything you've already had. I mean, I guess if those were our numbers, I'd be a little disappointed in it. I mean, you should have more yards. I mean, really. And, you know, they gave the ball away a couple or 3 times, and I don't know, man. It was a sloppy game, and South Dakota is a good team, but not a great team.
Yeah. Great teams capitalize on those 6 turnovers. Very good teams have trouble capitalizing on those turnovers.
I mean, essentially, on top of every possession they already had, they could have had a potential for 42 extra points.
Oh, yeah. Should have.
I mean, I don't know. South Dakota is a really good team and definitely not one to take lightly, but they don't scare me.
No. They do not scare me either. Alrighty.
No.
Should we touch on the other 2 games?
Yeah, there's not a ton to talk about other than, you know, South Dakota State is a very good football team and beat a okay team in Incarnate Word.
South Dakota State has been playing very good football all playoffs. I mean, essentially since they lost the Dakota Marker, South Dakota State has been playing very good football all season. They are a team that definitely gives me some pause. They look like the powerful matchup that a championship game should have. You know?
Yeah. South Dakota State has an insanely talented defense. They are going to make your life tough. There is no getting around that.
Oh yeah.
Every point is going to be hard to come by. It doesn't matter who you are. They're good.
Oh,
and they showed it. They definitely flexed their muscles a little bit. I do think Incarnate Word is, I don't know. We were driving back from the Cat game during this one, and Incarnate Word had some opportunities early in the game. You know, their passing attack was actually decent early.
Yeah.
And yeah, I ran out of phone service, so I wasn't able to watch a ton.
Yeah.
But they had a fumble recovery early, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't score. And then they drove quite a ways down the field. Really, really good, short passes and some pretty darn good runs from their quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't get points out of it.
Yeah.
I do think South Dakota State's defense I think there is a way you can attack them,
Mm-hmm.
but there's not many holes on that team.
No, there are not. And it's going to be a tough game against South Dakota State, and that's obvious. It's the most obvious statement of all time because they are the back-to-back national champs. I just feel they may be slightly overlooked as far as these playoffs go. I still very much respect South Dakota State and what they've been able to do.
Yeah, and they deserve it. I mean, they're two-time defending national champions. The defense is as good, if not better, than the last 2 years, despite what they lost the last couple years.
Yeah.
They are rolling. They are really rolling right now.
They're playing their best football at the best time to be playing their best football. And also, I know you mentioned already that they had 6,200 people at that game. I got to tune into this game for a little bit towards the end because I got to take a break from moving for lunch. And by the time this game was 55-14,
South Dakota State had more than that. USD had 6,200. South Dakota State had 8,671.
Oh, okay. So a little bit, 8,600, but when this game was 55-14, it may have been 86 that were in that crowd for South Dakota State. And I understand trying to get a lead on the rush outside of the game, but also when it comes to the playoffs, I feel like I kind of want to watch every moment,
Yeah, I didn't leave until after it was over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was well over by the time I left, but yeah, I mean, South Dakota State is good. They have been good.
Mm-hmm.
Next week is going to be pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah. Two amazing matchups this weekend, I feel like.
Yeah. North Dakota State, on the other hand, I didn't get to watch any of this game.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't see North Dakota State on the same level as South Dakota State right now. I don't know about you.
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be a very long semifinal game for North Dakota State. I feel like South Dakota State has improved throughout the season, and NDSU has kind of tapered off a little bit.
Yeah. Their offense is pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
Not great. Their defense is pretty darn good. Not great. But Mercer's offense is not good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we knew that coming into this game,
Yeah.
that they relied almost completely on their defense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much what we saw. I mean, they did hold North Dakota State to 31 points to barely cover the spread.
Yep. Very similar numbers to what South Dakota did against UC Davis is what North Dakota State did against a Mercer team that has a very good defense. So they do hold teams to low yardage and lower scores. But 133 rushing yards, our dude Sharmar Brown, 58 yards in this game. So
yeah.
Adam Jones only had 100 more yards than him this time.
Cam Miller threw 2 picks also. Yeah. I have a sneaking suspicion that NDSU is not going to win the Dakota marker twice in one season.
Yeah. I think that's pretty safe. I think that's pretty safe to say. This Mercer team, very, very one-sided, like you already said, and they showed it. They showed all the flaws that we already knew about.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I took out of this game too.
Yeah.
No offense, good defense.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah.
All right.
Should be fun.
Oh,
Should be fun.
These semifinals, I'm very excited for these games that are coming up and the way this rest of this season, I have a feeling the way it will go. Very excited for it.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty special, I think.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to bring up for the peoples before we let them go?
Nope. It's a great time to be a Bobcat.
Mm-hmm.
Great time.
Absolutely great time. The best time. You may say the best time to be a Bobcat.
Yes. The best time.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Go ahead and rate this 5 stars wherever you're listening to it at. You can catch us on Instagram or X at CatsPod. Check us out on YouTube at The CatsPod because we're still trying to figure out who took CatsPod. If anybody can find them for us, we're still looking for them. We want CatsPod on YouTube, but we'll see how it goes. Have a great week, everybody. We will catch you guys on Wednesday, most likely, as long as schedules allow.
Yes. One last thing for the person who asked about calving in December. We're calving in December because we got rid of our fall program and we wanted to move those cows into our spring program. But in order for them to not get too fat, we needed to put embryos in them and make them have a calf a little bit earlier. And we'll get a little bit older bulls for the next sale. So that's kind of the reason that we decided to go with this December deal.
Yeah. And so that was cattle talk from the Cats Pod.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Have a great week, everybody.
Older bulls, less fat cows.
Yeah. Older bulls, less fat. I don't know what that means. I'm completely lost when it comes to any of the Ben is not a rancher, All right.
Yeah. All right. Adios.